Hey, this stuff really works. Not even Gone with the Wind has its own exhibit here at the Smithsonian in Washington, but there's something about Star Trek, space, the final frontier, that is especially appealing to computer buffs. And besides, life is too short just to spend your time looking at spreadsheets, word processors, and databases. Today, we'll look at software from space, from Star Trek games to astronomy programs, on this edition of the Computer Chronicles.
Computer Chronicles has been made possible in part by PC Connection and Mac Connection, mail-order software and hardware peripherals for the PC and the Macintosh, and the Software Publishers Association, providers of educational materials to help manage software. Don't copy that floppy.
Welcome to the Computer Chronicles. I'm Stewart Cheifet, and with me this week is Glenn Rubenstein. Glenn's a high school sophomore, but also a video game analyst, a computer columnist, etc. We're taking a look at spacey kind of software here, Glenn. As a matter of fact, what we have up here on the computer, I don't know if you've seen this, it's a terrific piece of shareware called STS Orbit for those of us who would wish we were astronauts and like to monitor space shuttle missions. And here, in fact, we're monitoring the STS-29 Discovery mission, and we can see the shuttle actually blinking there in the circle over the Atlantic. We're just about 15 minutes or so into the mission. We see our frame of reference over there here in the San Francisco Bay Area, the orbit of the sun, the first three initial orbits of the Discovery shuttle itself, all the numbers at the bottom. A neat piece of software. And as we see here, zillions of games. I mean, you said, what, 25 or more Star Trek games out there, all kinds of space games. This one from the Apple II goes back years and years, brand new, an actual shuttle simulator we have. Glenn, what is it about space stuff and Star Trek and all that that correlates so much with computer hackers?
As it's been said, space has been one of man's greatest fascinations. And today, with the technology we have, with the great graphics, sound, and mass storage we have available, you can fully experience it on a computer. It's almost like virtual reality. It's like being there for those of us that, can't go up on the shuttle.
Right. Well, Glenn, we're going to take a look at some of the best space adventure games out there. We'll also look at some serious astronomy software if your interest in space goes beyond just role-playing. Now, for amateur astronomers, the personal computer has been a godsend, and an organization called the Santa Barbara Instrument Group has developed a dedicated astronomy package called AutoGuider that has revolutionized the way you use a telescope.
Here at Stanford University, students spend hours at this observatory learning about astronomy. But in addition to looking directly into the telescope, they are now using the AutoGuider technology coupled with a CCD imaging camera to observe more details than they could ever see with the naked eye.
You can see additional details using a CCD in that it's much more sensitive than your eye, certainly, and because it's a digital instrument, you can use software that takes advantage of this digital nature and can bring out very subtle details.
After finding the coordinates for Jupiter, the students plug the data into the ST4 auto tracker. They check to make sure the telescope is focused, and then they hook up the CCD. Over at the computer, the students can set the exposure time. The Santa Barbara Instrument Group system comes with a utility program that lets you manipulate or process the captured image. The auto tracking feature locks onto an object and follows it automatically.
The ST4 has an auto tracking feature which allows it to take the place of manual tracking, inserting it into a guide scope and permitting the appropriate software to control the telescope allows you to take very long exposure pictures without actually having to be there. And the result is much better than a human can do.
The technology for Star Tracker isn't new, but the price point is any PC user can add on the ST4 system for less than $1,000.
Amateurs can now afford to have an instrument that only professionals could have 15 years ago.
For the Computer Chronicles, I'm Maria Gabriel.
Computers and space games just naturally go together. In fact, the first computer game ever was called Space War, developed by students at MIT back in 1962. Here to show us their favorite space games are Glenn Rubenstein again, and also with us Ben Calica, a computer writer. Ben, what's a good space game to you? Glenn told us there are 25 Star Trek games out there. What's a good one?
I think that a good space game is determined by the same thing that determines a good book. You get a great plot and you get some great action.
It's really interactive fiction, storytelling.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, speaking of that, Star Trek V is the first game you're going to show us, based on the movie, I guess?
Based on Star Trek V, follows
Okay,
the same
how
plot.
does it
As you
work?
can see, all the crews here, we've got Spock, McCoy, Sulu, Chekhov, Uhura, and Scotty. And right now, I'm going through a wormhole. And as you can see, I died.
Yeah, so you're Kirk, you're running the Enterprise, and
yeah.
you're talking to all these guys and so on.
see,
yeah.
Bad hull damage. So
Okay, let's go to number 2 now of your picks, which is Space Quest 4.
Space Quest 4. Of all the space games ever, the Space Quest series has always been the most popular. And that's because, of the storyline and also the fact that they're very humorous type games. They have a great parody element. And also simply the great graphics, the great detail that's put into the game.
All right, so here's Space Quest 4.
Okay, we're skipping
and
in
what's
the
the story
introduction.
here, Glenn?
Okay. In this game, you're being followed by the sequel police. As you can see up there, it says Space Quest 12. You've gone through a
Zoomed ahead
time
somehow,
ripple.
okay.
See, right there, your character, Roger Wilco, who's a space janitor, falls out, and he's again got to save the universe from destruction.
And so we're landing on this mystery, desolate planet here of some sort.
And as you can see, it looks just like a science fiction movie. It's very futuristic, very...
And you can roam around, move your character around, and explore the usual kind of adventure game stuff.
Yeah, and as you can see, once you walk forward,
as it
that
gets closer.
bigger. It's your typical futuristic city, and this game is brand new right now.
Yeah, it's really logic problem-solving kind of game, not really shoot 'em up
and that's
game.
what's good about it. It's not just, senseless action. You really have to think, and it takes a long time to beat it, and it's really worth
Okay,
it.
speaking of great graphics, though, I want you to show us Wing Commander 2. That's your third pick.
Okay, oops. Pop out of this
So we'll get out of here.
Okay, quit.
As you quit, it says do something of social value there, right? Instead of playing computer games all day long.
Okay, and we have Wing Commander 2 loading up. This is really one of the best flight simulation type games ever. It takes place in space, and the action is just really intense.
Okay.
As far as the storyline goes, there's an alien race that's inhabited space, and you're part of kind of a federation of planets. And you're at an army base that's in the middle of space, and you must go out, and fly a mission to shoot them down.
Okay, and here we are inside our little spaceport.
Now I'm getting my mission here. I'll just go through this.
Okay, your little mission briefing there. You're going to go skip past. Okay, is this a little space vehicle we're going to take off
now
on?
this is where the graphics get really great. As you can see up there, climbing into the cockpit.
We got the music in the background.
And taking off. Yeah, almost every PC owner that I've talked to says this is the best IBM game ever. And just by looking at the graphics, you can tell why.
Yeah. Okay, now you're in space. So what you're going to do? A kind of space dogfight now?
Yeah, you're in a dogfight. You fly around, you shoot. Typical. There's everything you can see, other ships and whatnot.
Whoa.
Yeah, just shot one of my own men. Now, I'm gonna eject here.
Okay, things get tough. You can always eject and go do your homework.
Yeah. It's just the attention to detail is like something
great.
that's never been seen before in an IBM.
All right. Now, well, speaking of detail, you have a game called Spaceship Warlock on the Macintosh that uses a CD-ROM. It's got great graphics, doesn't it?
It's a beautifully detailed game. It was done as a piece of interactive fiction. The person who created it is a gentleman named Mike Saines, who previously had done the first computer-oriented comic book named Shatter.
Yeah,
and you can see
all right, let's
the
take a look
quality.
at it, Ben.
What's happened at this point, this game is much less about saving the universe, much more about saving your own self, your own hide.
Where are we?
We're on a planet right now. We've been informed by the local police that perhaps it's a good idea that we get off the planet.
Okay.
We took care of a mugger, which gave us a reward of enough money to buy a ticket. Now we're talking to the spaceport. They're telling us about the different flights that are available.
Okay.
So let's take a look at Flight 237 and see what this is.
Oh yes, the Belshazzar.
That's a spaceship we're going to take to get off this planet
That's right.
here.
That's right.
So we're going to a little guided tour.
Yes, I think that they'll let us know what we're about to pay
She's the
for.
most luxurious ship in the galaxy. Her wall-to-wall splendor is second to none. I'm talking
It's a
about the
great use of
famous
CD audio.
Belshazzar.
That's right. You realize, of course, that this is the famous robot leech.
Yes, okay. So where do we go from here?
Well, from here, we'll take it as written that we've actually bought the ticket. We're going to take a cab to the spaceport.
Okay.
And we've just been dropped off at the
Okay,
spaceport.
so we've just taken our space cab.
We're going to hop in time over
Driven
to
by
the
a
cab.
space cab driver, I see.
Right. And we are definitely going to choose to pay the fare.
Okay.
I have explored what happens If you
Get
don't,
out of my cab.
oh dear,
You didn't pay.
I didn't pay.
Can we recover from this, or we did?
I think
We're dead, it
actually
looks like
dead,
to
yes.
me.
Yes, somehow I've run out of money.
All right, Ben, you didn't plan on dying. I realize that.
All
Can we
right,
just
well,
sort of jump to the
yeah,
spaceport and pretend we're alive?
We'll skip right to
Okay.
the shuttle that's going to take us up to the Belshazzar. Now, we're going to move in here, get right to the bottom of this elevator shaft. If we hadn't, you can do a lot of different things in the game. If we hadn't already had the ticket at this point, we'd meet this gentleman here who would...
The robot.
Yes,
Okay.
who would not be overly happy about it.
Your ticket.
Not the most
So
attractive
now-
flight attendant. I've seen.
Welcome aboard.
Yes. You know, there's a lot of attitude on this planet. That's part of the reason that it's good to leave. So now we'll go into the Pogo space shuttle.
Okay.
This is just going to take us from the surface of the planet up to the Belshazzar, which is in orbit. Now notice how the perspective changes. In a lot of games, there tends to be this kind of
You're always looking at the same view.
game attitude. Well, this is much more of an interactive movie, and it uses the different...
Right, okay, so there's the countdown to our little shuttle launch.
we're looking from the point of view of the person who's sitting in the chair.
Right. Looking up. And the G's are sort of making my vision fuzzy. Here is what's happening.
Exactly.
Okay, and what are we going to see next?
Now we're going to see what it looks like from the outside. We're flying.
Mm-hmm.
We are currently flying into space. The attention to detail on this is just remarkable.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a combination of some beautiful 3D work touched up to create an incredible sequence of animations. When I saw this at first, it reminded me of 2001 in the sense that this is something that has not been done in the CD medium.
Well, there's one thing you're going to show me which is even better.
Yes.
There's a new game coming out, still in development, called Screaming Metal.
Yes.
And that's got even better motion.
That's right.
All right, show it to me.
This was wonderful, but it was done using existing authoring tools. It was done using directors. So there's when you move from side to side, you saw there's a little bit of speed problems. Well, this is done, there was a combination of a gentleman named Bill Appleton with the existing team at Reactor. And what they've done is they've built something that moves faster than anything I've ever seen on a Mac before.
Wow. Okay.
Now this is happening, this is not a movie that has been previously done. This is happening in real time.
This is responding to your moving the mouse.
I am moving this ship right now. Now these mazes will be able to come off the disk in real time.
Wow.
They will happen. They can be as complex as necessary, and they can be much more detailed. This was just the first bit of
That's
technology
fantastic.
demonstration.
That's going to be coming up later. Okay, one quick question. Speaking of what's coming up, there's going to be a Star Trek Next Generation game coming out, isn't there?
Yes, Spectrum Holobyte's working on it, and from what I've seen, it looks incredible.
All right, we've got a lot to look forward to, guys. Thanks very much. Frank Drake has been a leader in the use of computers for space exploration. In fact, he was one of the founders of SETI, the project that uses computers to search for extraterrestrial intelligence. Drake is also using computers to teach astronomy. We have a report from the University of California at Santa Cruz.
Frank Drake has found a way to teach students about astronomy without taking them to the planetarium. He uses a computer program called Dance of the Planets from ARC Software. It's a dynamic, interactive model of the sky and the solar system.
When you ask it to present the system of Saturn or the solar system itself, it doesn't look up in a table what the system is, but rather it computes it using basic physics. And this means that you can ask it to do almost anything and it's able to do it. You can tell it, you can invent a comet and say, how would this comet move through the solar system? And it will calculate it.
Orbital simulation is what makes Dance of the Planets so interesting. You can type in New Year's Eve in the year 2001 and then view the sky exactly as it will be that night. Or you can look back in time to see how close a comet came to the planet Earth in March 1989. Professor Drake uses a large overhead monitor to display the computer screens to his students. He can teach astronomy and show them the objects in the sky, even on a cloud-covered night. And the use of the computer helps keep his students interested in the subject.
The software causes the students to be much more interested. We have to remember that students today are used to going to the movies and seeing spectacular special effects on wide screens. And so when they come to the classroom, they expect to see something like that. And Dance of the Planets gives that sense of vitality.
You don't need any fancy hardware to run Dance of the Planets. It'll work on any IBM XT compatible. For the Computer Chronicles, I'm Maria Gabriel.
The science of astronomy has always been heavily dependent on mathematical calculation, so it's no wonder that personal computers have become a logical platform for learning about the solar system. Here to show us two great examples of astronomy software are Charles Turner of Carina Software and also Steve Bisk, president of Software Bisk. Steve, let me ask you, who is the intended market for this kind of software? Is this professional astronomer or the average guy who's just fascinated by the stars or everything in between?
Well, in the past, we geared our marketing towards just the amateur astronomer. We found that any home with a personal computer now is a good market for this type
well, if you
of
look
product.
at the sort of games we were looking at in the first half of the show, there's an awful lot of people that are interested in this stuff. Charles, let's turn to you, and we're not talking about monsters and Star Trek or Star Wars now. This is the real solar system, right?
This is a simulation.
And your program is called Voyager 2, and what does it actually do?
Voyager is a sky simulation. It recreates the sky from any place on Earth or any place in the solar system. And it also animates the motion of the planets and other celestial
There's kind of a
bodies.
little private planetarium in your computer.
You can think of it as a desktop planetarium.
All right, show us how you use it.
In the center of the screen, we have the sky. Along the bottom, we have a horizon, which has been customized for a particular location. On the left side of the screen, we have information that's commonly needed, such as the local time, the location, or the center of the chart. These are also buttons which allow us to change the values. So to set a new location, we click on the location button, bring up a world map. We can show major cities. We can zoom in.
So and we're picking the view of the sky from our particular location on Earth.
We're choosing our location by just clicking on the map. I'd like to show the animation of the planets. In this case, the sun. Let me pick a time step of about 2 days, and let me begin with the animation. The sun is tracing out a path called the analemma. It's a very unique figure 8, which is well known. The other objects in the sky here are Mercury and Venus.
Okay, so the big yellow ball, obviously the sun, and the other two are those two planets.
That's correct. Voyager uses the scroll bars to move around the sky. And at the bottom of the screen, we also have buttons for controlling things you might want to see, such as the grid lines. We can turn them off, or the constellation lines. If I'd like to find a particular constellation, I can go up and pull down a menu item, and let's just say Andromeda, because it's first. It gets centered in the screen and flashes, and I can also draw a box to zoom in. I have another button for turning on deep sky objects. These are galaxies and clusters and nebula that normally require a telescope to see. This little frame in the lower right-hand corner means that the object has an image on the disk, which I can then bring up.
That's great. What about eclipses? And can you simulate things like that on Voyager?
Yes, last year there was a spectacular eclipse. It was seen from Hawaii and also from Baja California. We can show the eclipse, but we also show it from a unique perspective. I'll zoom in so you can see better. This is the Earth as viewed from the moon. Begin the animation. You'll see this little round circle is the path of totality. It's actually the shadow of the moon moving across the Earth.
That's what the eclipse would have looked like from the moon.
From the moon, that's correct. This ability to save and then reload astronomical events is one of Voyager's more powerful features. Let me show you another one here. This is a view from a place further out in the solar system. And the sun is over here on the left with the inner planets. Jupiter's on the right. And let me turn on the paths. What I'm showing you is the path of a spacecraft. This is the Ulysses spacecraft, which was launched in 1990.
That's the green thing going out
That's the green thing shooting out towards Jupiter.
And it's rendezvousing with Jupiter.
It flew right over the north pole of Jupiter.
And it kicks around it there.
Right. It goes into a polar orbit around the sun.
That's fascinating.
The Voyager program comes with 5 or 6 orbits already programmed in, but that can be added to. It also has a large database, and it has pictures which can also be extended by the user.
Is this primarily an educational tool, Charles, to really learn about astronomy and the solar system?
Well, Voyager is intended for a broad spectrum of people, and it's been very popular with amateur astronomers, with teachers and students, and just with people interested in the sky.
And you actually have a book that goes along with it, don't you?
Yes, recently Wadsworth Publishers brought out a student workbook to accompany Voyager in a university class for introductory astronomy.
All right, Steve, we've been looking at Voyager on the Mac. You have a program, The Sky for Windows, on the PC here. And you also have a telescope over there. Now explain what the relationship is between the telescope and the software.
Okay, what we're able to do with our software is establish a link between the telescope and the computer. You simply go outside, point the telescope at two known objects, like two stars, and from that point on, you've got a link between the computer and the telescope.
Okay, well, introduce us to the software first of all, and then we'll get back to the telescope part of it.
Okay. The SKY is a general-purpose astronomy program which comes in 3 different levels containing from 10,000 to 250,000 objects. We've got the 250,000 object version running here.
Okay, there's sort of a grid of the sky.
Right. Let me turn the grid off and turn on the stars and the planets.
And can we label them also?
Yes. Let me label the solar system objects and the Messier objects. Messier objects are some of the brighter, interesting objects to look at in the sky.
And you can also sort of see the constellations in the sky with this?
Yes, we can turn on constellation lines and the constellation boundaries.
Yeah.
Okay, and then as you move in, we'll zoom in on a smaller portion of the sky here, and then zoom in. And as you can see, more stars appear.
The program is adding the elements you could see at that point, yeah. All right, let's talk about the interface with the telescope now and show us how these two things work together.
Okay, what the telescope link enables you to do is see on the screen where exactly your telescope is pointed.
Okay, so if we had this outside pointing at the sky right now, which is, we'll pretend what we're doing, as you move the telescope, the software will show me where it's pointing.
Yes, as you can see, the crosshairs are moving as the scope is being moved. If you wanted to look at M27 there, it looks like it's a nebula. You just simply move the scope until the nebula is within the crosshairs.
Right, so it's telling me go more to the right, up and down, et cetera, et cetera.
Correct. And then look in the eyepiece, and you would see that in the eyepiece.
Okay, now how about going in the other direction? Suppose there's something I want to find. I want to find a particular object in the sky, but it's pretty hard to do that just looking at the sky. Can I look at the computer screen and point the software, point the telescope to follow it?
Yes, if I use the search command, you can search for any object that's in here.
Okay.
I can search for a NGC object, like we'll maybe look for the Eagle Nebula here.
Okay.
Now what we get is a couple of crosshairs on the screen which show you each axis and how to move the telescope.
Okay, so we're talking about those green crosshairs and the red crosshairs?
Correct.
Okay, and you're now moving the telescope to try to get those two sets of crosshairs lined up.
Right.
And that'll get you pointing at that Eagle Nebula.
Right, and now we're pointed at the Eagle Nebula.
Wow. All right, Steve, explain this interface between the telescope and the computer. You've got a little magic black box there, I guess.
Yeah, it's quite simple. We've got two sensors on the telescope which sense where the telescope is pointed. They feed that into here. This translates it into a form that can be fed into the computer, and then the computer knows where the telescope's pointed.
And I see you have hard copy. You can actually print out what you're looking at on the screen?
Yes, you can generate some professional quality star charts.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's great. So whatever you've got on your screen, you just dump it to your printer.
They're real nice because they're customizable and disposable. You can take them out in the field, use them, and then get rid of them.
Well, it's great stuff, whether it's space fantasy or space science. There's terrific software there. Thank you very much, gentlemen. That's our look at space age software. We'll be back in just a moment with this week's computer news on Random Access.
In the Random Access file this week, this is a special summer edition with the focus on software. Here are last week's best-selling software titles for the PC according to PC Connection. MS-DOS was #1, followed by Stacker 2.0, Approach and After Dark for Windows, and the Windows 3.1 upgrade. Also in the top 10, a Mi Pro 2.0, EMM 386 6.0, WinFax Pro, Windows 3.0, and Symantec's Desktop for DOS. Next up, Paul Schindler and our summer software review.
It's hard to know where to start with this upgrade to Windows. Let's take a look. The Program Manager is what most people start with first, so we'll look around here. Under the File menu, Microsoft improved the Run option so you can browse for a file to run. It also improved the Properties option under File by adding a working directory. No more tricking Windows in order to launch an application with your favorite dataset. Plus, browsing through the icons on a program with multiple icons has been made easier. We demonstrate that here by looking at the properties of the MS-DOS prompt and look at the wide range of new default icons. File Manager has improved so much that someone who came to Windows from DOS might not flee to the DOS prompt every time they want to do something. It sports a cleaner look and it's 4 times faster than it used to be. Single-click on a drive icon to change to that drive. Double-click to bring up a second File Manager window. In 3.1, File Manager remembers where it was pointing and comes up in the same place next time. But perhaps the single most important improvement in Windows 3.1 is that it fails more gracefully than 3.0. It used to be anytime one application died, it brought down all Windows applications that were open at the time. We've given this program the three-fingered salute, Control-Alt-Delete, and this is what you get: a choice. You can quit this one app and return to Windows or reboot your computer. Believe me, this works. I've tried it. Windows 3.1 is $50 from Microsoft in Redmond, Washington. For the Computer Chronicles, I'm Paul Schindler.
That's it for this week's Computer Chronicles. I'm Janelle Stelson.
Computer Chronicles has been made possible in part by PC Connection and Mac Connection, mail order software and hardware peripherals for the PC and the Macintosh, and the Software Publishers Association, providers of educational materials to help manage software. Don't copy that floppy.
Videocassette copies of this program are available. Computer Chronicles also publishes a companion newsletter containing details on products demonstrated, plus background information on program topics. To order a videocassette or a subscription to the newsletter, call 1-800-366-9484 or write Computer Chronicles. Please specify program subject for tapes. All orders include a free software program for auditing software use.